Hello, I'm Incubus from Inquisition. You're watching Impact Channel.
Greetings everyone, we are here with Incubus from Inquisition. Hello, nice to meet you.
Very good to meet you.
And Happy New Year!
Thank you.
How was the celebration?
Actually, it was partly traveling and nothing really. Most of my celebrations were like the weekend before New Year's. So there was, it was kind of like a travel time. We started this tour literally 2 days after New Year's, so there was a lot of preparing.
Alright, I see.
For that. So no parties really.
Mm.
I think I had a beer.
Maybe tonight?
Maybe.
How is it?
It's really hard playing drums on a hangover, so.
I can imagine that.
Yeah.
And how is the tour so far with Septic Flesh? Just started a few days ago, right?
Yeah. Tonight will be our fourth show. This will be our third tour with Septic Flesh, and every time we tour with them, it's always a great experience. We're a good mixture of bands together. They're very symphonic, very heavy, and more classic black metal. And also we formed a friendship, so now it's like it's a dream to tour with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Just like for us.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I haven't found too many interviews with you on the internet, so I'd like to ask a few basic questions about you. Where and when were you born?
I was born April 7th, 1971, in Eugene, Oregon, in US of A.
And how much do you know about your ancestors?
I know quite a bit back to my great-grandparents on both sides. My father's family was from the Bremen, Germany area, and my mother's family, as far back as we know, was from Northern Ireland. So I have definitely a German-Irish mix.
That was my guess, actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good.
And do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have 2 older brothers and an older sister. I'm the youngest.
Mm. And how was your childhood?
It was very good. I can say that. It was, of course, there's always things that you want, you dislike that your parents make you do.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say that anything they did growing up has helped me immensely now. So yeah, good childhood. Being born and raised in Eugene, Oregon, a very small town. It was a college town. By the time I was 19, I had to get out of there though and move to the Seattle, Washington area. Had to get to a bigger area, experience more things. So I moved out at 19. It's basically playing music since then.
You mentioned this Catholic school. Sounds like a good preparation for black metal.
Yep. Growing up, I came from a very Irish Catholic family. They weren't like zealots or really strict, but every Sunday was church. And for about 4 years, I went to a Catholic school. And then on top of that, every Wednesday there was a Catholic class us kids had to go to. So yeah, it was full religion upbringing. Ironically, my experiences with that wasn't what got me into black metal, because I was always into like dark movies, movie soundtracks, just anything kind of evil and dark. And this was metal, and heavy metal was just a complement to that. There. Also, my parents were very supportive of music. They got each one of us kids whatever instrument we wanted, and of course I chose drums, and they regretted that immensely afterwards because of the noise constantly bashing. Yeah, that's pretty much on that aspect. Catholic school, like I was saying, there were strict parts to it, but ironically, the Catholic school I went to was where a lot of people would go to. it was the place where you could find the cool girls and strange things to take in your body, like drugs. I mean, so it was a kind of ironic thing.
And what do your parents think about Inquisition?
Dad likes it because he was a musician himself. He was a jazz musician. Mom, of course, she would have rather me be in something different, some genre. But the ironic thing is, in my upbringing during the 80s, during the whole like hair metal and heavy metal era, they were fully supportive of that type of stuff. They weren't strict about growing hair. They really liked all types of music, but they didn't like the extremeness that I was going. But they liked that I'm traveling, pretty much that type of thing.
And do you have your own family? Is any support waiting for you at home?
No, in some ways, unfortunately, not. But it's just how it's been. My baby is the band, I guess. That's basically what it is.
How did you become a metal fan? What was your first inspiration?
Wow, I didn't really think that one out, but I could say my oldest brother. My oldest brother, he was the one who introduced me to, say, AC/DC. My first record LP that I was given at Christmas was Rush Exit Stage Left. I think my brother bought it for me because he wanted to listen to it, but I loved it. He did that quite a bit. Here's your present. Let me put it in my collection. And even he saw a change in me because he was in a band, a touring band, a hair metal band in the 80s. He moved to LA. He would go away for a while and come back and visit, and he noticed my music taste would get more extreme and more extreme. Like when I got into Slayer, he was like, "What are you listening to this crap for? It'll never grow. Nobody will ever like it. It's never going to become anything." And whenever I see him now, I just kind of giggle and laugh at him. And he's not in hair metal anymore because that's not really a thing anymore.
And what was your first album you bought?
That I bought? Wow. I don't know if I want to say it because I was very, very small. Actually, wait a second. I got a couple albums, but one that seems kind of funny to me now. But I was just thinking they were cute girls. Was a band called The Go-Go's. Mm-hmm. And I was into it because the girl drummer was pretty good, and I thought it was just a crazy thing that the drummer was so good. And that sounds bad saying, but as a small kid, I was really inspired by that. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. But yeah, I was like 7 years old there, or something like that.
And the first rock LP, or metal LP?
I would have to say Kiss Double Platinum. You remember that album? It was all silver. It was after their Live 2 album. Mm-hmm. It was basically a best of, but it was the first album I actually bought that was rock or metal oriented. But the one I really enjoyed the most was Rush Exit Stage Left that my brother got me for Christmas. Mm-hmm. That's what really made me think about being a musician, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to play drums like that. I don't know if you're going to ask later, but that was obviously my first inspiration was Neil Peart. Mm-hmm. And still is, actually. They're still actually putting out music that I can listen to.
And do you remember the first concert you have ever been?
The first concert I ever went to, it was actually at a county fair in Eugene, Oregon, the Lane County Fair, and it was Johnny Cash. Mm-hmm. And that was in 1979. I was very small. I did not know what I was watching, but it was really interesting. And I didn't know anything about Johnny Cash, and now that I know that I saw it, I have much more respect for him. I was never really a fan, but it's really interesting to look back and see I got to experience him before he passed.
Mm-hmm. And what was your first drum kit?
My first drum kit was a little 4-piece that had no name on it except it said Made in China. So I don't even know what the brand was, but it was just a little practice student kit. Yeah, and that's where my parents found out that they kind of made a mistake, because I played them all the time, nonstop. So much to where they moved me out to the garage, and they even soundproofed the garage a little bit, but they didn't ever tell me to stop. So I credit my parents for that.
It's really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
What was your first gig as a musician?
My first gig as a musician? Well, I had a lot of friends that we'd get together and play like Slayer and Exodus and Metallica covers in my high school era. But we'd put on little shows in backyards, and all the kids from the neighborhood would come around and watch us try to play the songs. Usually we'd only get through about 2 or 3 riffs. But an actual paying concert, I played in a bar band when I was 16. So I was a 16-year-old, and the rest of the band were in their 30s and 40s, but they needed a drummer so bad that they had me play for them, and we played like 3 sets a night. I actually got paid. Between each set, I'd have to go back in the backstage. I couldn't be in the bar area. So that was a really good experience for what I'm doing now, because at 16 I was actually getting paid. And we were playing cover songs like what was popular at the time, like Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty type stuff like that. But it was a good experience.
Before Inquisition, you played in a band called Pregasm, right?
Whoa, yeah.
Could you please tell us about this project?
Yeah, that was very interesting, actually. Very interesting project, and that's very cool you found that. That's the year I moved to Seattle, from Eugene to Seattle, Washington. I met many different people into different music styles. We had a little clique of friends, and one guy was a bass player, had dreadlocks. He was really into reggae, but he liked metal. The singer was a punk rock, hardcore guy, really into like Discharge and Exploited and stuff like that. And the guitar player was a death metal guitar player, death metal thrash. And I was into everything, but at the time I was more of a metal type drummer. But I also liked playing like jazz beats and stuff like that. So that was an amalgamation of different styles. Like we'd be playing a death metal riff and then go into maybe like a reggae type thing. Today it seems kind of odd to me, but it worked. It worked, and then we'd have like hardcore parts and that type of thing. And for the Seattle scene area, we actually kind of grew quite a bit. And we did one tour in the southwest of the states, and then right after that we kind of just split and went our different ways. Some people went to school, some people went downhill with drug addiction type of stuff. And that was pretty much that. It was really great when it was happening. It's really good. I kind of wish it would have gone more, but I don't think it was meant to be.
Was it more challenging around that time to get gigs, when in the middle of the grunge era?
That's a really good point, and that was the exact time, because it was from, Pregasm was 91 to 94, like smack dab in the middle, and we were in Seattle really quick. We almost got on a house party gig. We didn't know what the other bands were playing. They said, sorry, we have too many bands, you can't play, so we ended up going to the house party anyway. It was packed. I couldn't see the band playing, but somebody said it was a band called Nirvana, and playing right after them was a band called Soundgarden. And this was in early '91. They were already fairly popular, but they were still playing like small gigs and stuff like that. So that was a really good experience during that time, being in that band. And so we didn't get that gig, of course. Too many bands hopped on, but it was hard, and we literally went to pubs and bars that didn't even have metal, and we asked them, can we set up in the corner? We'll sell tickets, you'll sell a lot of beer, we'll give you a cut of the door, So we literally would make our own venues and gigs. And some of those pubs got really popular as punk rock metal bars. And they didn't even intend it being that way, and they became fairly famous in the Seattle area.
I was asking because, Sanctuary, Nevermore,
Yeah.
also from Seattle, and they got a couple of, difficulties.
Metal
with
Church. Yeah.
Metal Church as well.
Seattle is a strange beast. A lot of bands come through there, although surprisingly, many bands play Portland, Oregon, which is just below it, and Vancouver, Canada, which is just above Seattle, because the venues, there's only a couple professional metal venues there, and then anything else is more like your Slayer or Ministry or that level at the time in the 90s. So it was really hard to get a legitimate professional club. But it created a micro scene though of clubs, so it was a good thing.
Did you have more projects and bands around that time besides Pregasm?
Yes, I basically right the last year, '94. I was with Pregasm. Then '94, '95, I met a guy named Ben Owens. He was in a band called Disbelief, and I know there's many bands called Disbelief, but he was in a band called Disbelief. Then he left to join a band called Blood Ritual, and their drummer was never available to practice, and so I would go and practice for the band, and he would show up and play the gigs, and then eventually they kicked him out. I played one gig with him, and they broke up. And they were kind of a big deal in Seattle for a death metal band. They were really good.
And how did you discover black metal?
I knew of black metal hanging out at friends' houses. The singer of Pregasm, it's funny we're going back to Pregasm because there's so many little instances that spawn things. The singer, the hardcore guy, he had an extensive record collection of just everything. He had noise. Back then he had a lot of noise, which was a little more uncommon then. It wasn't as popular. He had a lot of death metal, although he was mainly hardcore. And he had one album, Under the Sign of the Black Mark. At the first listen, this is ironic, I do this with a lot of stuff. The first listen, I was like, what am I listening to? My ears weren't used to it. I did the same thing the first time I heard Show No Mercy Slayer. I didn't know what to think because I'd never heard the drums like that. I'd never heard vocals like that, the speed. So I would have to say it was Bathory, but I didn't really realize it at the time. And then a few years later, I met a man called Odin Thompson, who owns a small record label, Moribund Records. And we just hit it off. He needed help doing his distro, filling out orders. And within 1 week of meeting him, I was in a shared apartment, and I didn't like the situation I was in, and he offered I could move in with him if I did mail, and that's where it all spawned. I was inducted into black metal probably the best way you could, because this guy had the biggest collection, stuff that you just can't get. He was crazy how much he searched out stuff, and that was Black Metal 101. He was very strict. Like, he would even be like, don't talk during this playing. Listen to the music. No party metal nights. He really wanted you to listen to the music, read the lyrics, know about the band, even about their labels and that type of thing. So yeah, that was definitely it.
I got more or less the same impression when I heard Pleasure to Kill and Justice for All.
Oh,
what do I think about? I got used to these Alice Cooper songs, 4 minutes long, one solo and stuff.
Exactly.
Let's put it on the side, and later on Master of Puppets got me into heavier music.
Yep.
And then Pleasure to Kill, Panzer Division, Marduk, and all that stuff. So.
See, you're also you're also naming other things that I would hear, and it wouldn't set in, and then later I'd hear it again, and it would be like, wow, this is amazing.
Now I can hear.
Yeah, it's strange. I'm actually getting into some music right now, off topic, that I would never have listened to when I was a kid, or I would make fun of. But because I'm more into, I like well-made sound productions and music that makes you really think. I started getting into a guy named Alan Parsons, a band called Alan Parsons Project.
Heard about it?
Yeah, some of it sounds really funny and actually silly, but it's very deep. When you get into the mindset and you can accept it, put metal behind you, it's really meaningful music.
And how did you meet Dagon?